And you are ready to go, Bob.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. We're starting the August 2nd, 2023 Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. It is 7 o'clock. We always start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if we would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Couple of housekeeping items. Emergency exits are either across from the atrium here or on either side of the boardroom that we're in. Probably where most of you came in. If anything's needed, we haven't had to do that yet, so I wouldn't worry too much. Next, we will actually ask for the minutes. I'm gonna do roll call first. If we could do roll call. So first, Robert Peckham, present. Beth Mossworth.
Here.
John Migliorini. Here. Christian Chamberlain.
Here.
Heather Robinson.
Here.
Timothy Harrington.
Present.
Aaron Lehman.
Present.
Could I get a motion for the minutes for last?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, in regards to the meeting minutes of July 5th, 2023, I move to approve.
I'll second.
Seconded by John. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I think you have to, you weren't here.
Oh, that's right. Well, I read them, but okay.
So, and abstain.
Abstain from me, yes.
With that, the meeting minutes are accepted. Thank you. We will start out. This is how the process works. I will call up your application, have you come up to the podium. I'll ask you to state your name and address clearly into the microphone for the record. We will ask you a series of questions. We will ask if anybody else has any comments or whatever about the application that's coming up. And then we will make a decision on that. That is the typical process. If anything's going to deviate from that, we'll let you know. Once that happens, if assuming that you get approved, you will still have to, you'll get paperwork in the mail in the next couple of days, and you will still have to finish the application paperwork through the engineering department over here, the town code enforcement office. So with that, we'll get started. We're going to start slightly out of order. I'm going to start with application 2023-070. And I don't know if I'll say the name right, but it's Gail Henrietta. What's that?
Artayet.
I apologize. Oh, there's a T. Got it. Artayet. Now, I hope I will remember that next time if we have to have you come back up.
Learn together, like she said.
So we are looking at a request here for a trailer that is parked on the other side of the house, not the parking lot, or I'm sorry, not the driveway or the garage side.
Correct.
Aaron, you want to start?
Sure. So we've all reviewed your application, and one of the questions I have is you explained that there are utilities that run on that side of the house in the lawn.
Yeah, on the other side there, that's why we cannot do any kind of access to what would be the driveway side of the house. That's why we've parked this, it's a 10-foot trailer that we use occasionally because of our motorcycles when we go to meets.
Okay.
So, and like I said, it's not a disturbance for anybody, as you've seen in documents. So we're applying for a variance so we can leave it at its current location because we cannot do anything on the other side. And there's also, our lot is a pie-shaped lot. So it also restricts by the garage, the distance from us to our neighbor. Where most people would have. So when we weren't supposed to have the electrical boxes on our lot when they built it 35 years ago for us. But somehow they all end up on our lots, including telephone.
Oh, nice.
And as just another thing, in our water line, when we just had the plumbing redone by Pride Plumbing, it was under the driveway to turn off. So they kind of, I think, yeah, during planning or whatever it was. So we're kind of in a bind. So that's why we come to the board with our variance.
Now I had a couple questions. In your application, you mentioned a couple different trailers. This is in regards to looks like letters from neighbors?
Yeah, we had back by the shed area on the stones, we had one of those little rowboats, aluminum rowboats. And it's on one of those fold up trailers and, so we just kept it back there. And it's, like I said, it's way in the backyard. Our backyard backs up to, yeah, we've moved it now to comply
Are you
with,
talking in the,
yeah, we've moved it now to comply with,
So that's not
The other-
part of this requirement.
no, it's not. That was just because our neighbors, they signed off, all of them, pretty much, all of them signed off saying these do not bother them. So we just, in the letter that they all signed on, we include boat trailer, even though the variance is only for this trailer. The other one, we already complied with by moving it with the ordinance. There's a
Okay.
fold up trailer and all that, so we just.
So we just moved it to an
Yeah.
acceptable location
Mhm,
back in June.
mhm. So that was all compliant. So the only one we're talking about is this Harley trailer of mine.
okay,
Oh, I see. How often does this trailer move?
About 3-4 times a summer, as we, or if we need to help somebody move some stuff or something. But the cycles are not stored in it, they're in my garage. It's
Okay.
just basically an empty trailer that we load up when it's needed and
okay,
help people out with, or move people, or or if we go on the meet, Daytona or Laconia or those things.
Yep.
Of course, we bring our bikes using that trailer. So it's not a daily use thing, basically. That's the question you're asking, correct?
Any other questions?
so I know you talked about the utility box and, have you tried parking the trailer over on that side previous to this?
It's not
Location.
possible because of the distance to the lot line and all that, and because my big van trying to maneuver around the boxes, it's not possible.
Yeah, I see it, yeah.
And so, we don't want to run into the utilities and even try.
And then it would be a real eyesore for my current, with Sherilyn next door, because she would see out of her living room and
Yeah,
dining
she
room
has
as
the
well.
window there.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm. Where
Have you-
it's at now, there's no, Tom's house has no windows on the side, or it's not near his deck or anything, so it's not obstructive to it either.
Well, the size, the house that it faces 67 Galloway.
Sorry, can you stand in the mic, talking to the
The
microphone,
house
please?
that it
Thank you.
faces, which you saw in the application, hopefully 67 Galloway, doesn't have any windows at all on that side of
Yes,
the
you can
house.
see
And
that in the
also the
picture.
deck sits
I
back
just said
a little further,
Mhm.
so they don't see it at all.
Okay,
Would there be anything stopping you from pulling the trailer on the side where it is and going around the back of the house to park the trailer on the garage side? of the house?
No, I've had to drive all the way around the house, and
We've got a lot of trees. back
yeah,
there.
and I also have landscaping, and I have lilac trees. I have 2 apple trees, cherry trees. So no, it's an obstacle course to get around. Mhm. And like I said, in the back, there's no view because we have the woods back there, and we also have the green belt. So nobody across either would have an eye obstruction or anything. It's not, as my neighbors have stated by their signatures, it doesn't bother them, and it's up to you guys to decide. But I have no other thing. I can't do anything else. As you seen by your pictures.
So if the neighbors on that side don't have
67.
windows and they don't complain,
Tom.
could you consider adding some bush and trees in front of the shed just so there's?
There
Perfect.
is, you can see by the pictures of arborvitae's that's about 20 foot tall, and all sorts of landscaping. Look at figure 2.
Yep,
Okay.
got that. But
So that would be with that big arborvitae's to the.
right, so if, my point is that if the neighbor on that side doesn't have an issue or windows.
No, he does
Then it's
not.
really a roadside perspective
Yeah,
thing. Could you add some more bushes there to cover up? So you
I
can't even
could,
see?
I could if need be. It might make it more difficult for me to take it out when I need to, because then I have to back up my van there and pull it out of there. So if I put bushes around it, then I can't have access to it easily.
Yeah.
As you see in figure 3, that is taken from Tom's front yard. So that would be a street view what people would see driving by.
Yeah.
It's
At an
barely
angle.
noticeable at an
So-
angle.
Actually, when we talked with a few of our neighbors about this, a few of our, frequent neighbors, a couple of them said, What trailer?
They didn't even know I
They
had it.
didn't even know it was there. And
All
these
these
neighbors
years
have
been
lived there
there.
like 20, 25 years.
That's how noticeable
So
it is.
it really.
When I walked up to them to ask them to sign those documents to help me out,
Right.
most of them said, what trailer? So there you go. There's your visibility.
Any other questions from board members?
I have no further questions.
And Aaron? Okay, hold, you got another one?
No, I'm good.
I'm gonna ask for it. Are there any questions from members of the audience here or online? Okay, just for sake of having it on the record, there was a neighbor from across the street did send in a note about this with some concern, but it feels like that may be alleviated. Is that correct, Heather? Is this something that we should be addressing or?
No, I do believe her concerns are all set and I don't see them online. So I think that their questions were answered.
Yeah, because I
Okay.
believe I've talked personally with all my neighbors, including Joe in front, Jim,
Yeah.
you know, living on the side,
Ones that are right across the
Tom,
street.
Bing.
Yeah, and we
all of
we
them.
appreciate that.
Yeah,
Yep.
and-
that's been fine.
and just to ask, just to make sure that this goes more smoothly, so I can get my neighbors to say, you know, we're okay, Dan, don't worry about it. So,
Okay. So with that, I think we can close this application.
Mhm.
Aaron,
I'm good with it.
Yeah.
Can I just
You're
have
the
1
guy.
minute to write the
do you
application?
want to write it up?
Yeah.
Okay, we just need a minute so we can finish some.
no
paper.
problem. You know, you got all the information.
You guys want that? Is that a requirement?
What?
Crush? So,
I don't
Okay.
know.
you guys? If he has that for 10 years, I don't think that.
Yeah,
2004.
yeah, it's crazy.
I understand, but. Yeah, I should pause it for a minute and then go to the next one.
Just be a few more minutes. Thank you.
May I sit down?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, thank you.
All right. And a motorcycle? Bad back and a motorcycle? Glutton for punishment. Amen. I agree with you.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, we are okay with requiring the gravel. Pad
I
below?
don't think any of us.
Okay, we're
feel
not
the
doing
need
that.
for it.
Okay,
No. Thank you for asking.
okay. Okay, I'm ready. Uh, Mr. Chairman, with regard to application number ZBA 2023-070 for an area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has duly advertised and held a public hearing, considered all relevant information, and has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variance. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variance will not result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties. The proposed trailer storage location will be partially screened from the road and will not negatively impact the character of the neighborhood. The variance cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative. Utilities and limited space prevent a feasible driveway extension area. The variance requested is substantial. While the variance is substantial, the variance does not have a substantial impact on nearby properties or the neighborhood. The variance will not have a negative effect on the physical or environmental conditions. No negative physical or environmental impacts are foreseen at this time. The difficulty relating to the variance was self-created. While the difficulty was self-created, the homeowner has provided an acceptable solution. And be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby approve the variance as presented.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Beth. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed is Christian. The motion carries. Again, the paperwork will be a couple days, but you.
All right, thank you to board.
Yep.
for
Thank you.
your
Have a
Have a
nice
good
evening.
evening.
attention today.
Ride safe.
Thank you.
Next, we're gonna have application 2023-069, David Havens.
I have his contractor Richard on Zoom and he is ready.
Richard.
I am on Zoom. Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
We
we can.
can.
Richard, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good. Please state your name and address clearly for the record.
I'm the contractor, Richard J. Race, 16378 Route 31, Holly, New York, 14470.
Thank you.
So anything to add to this application? We've discussed it internally, but is there anything to add to that?
Not really. I mean, his stairs and porch are falling apart currently. And he'd like to replace that with wood versus the brick and concrete that's there, and then expand that a little bit so that he can put maybe like a chair out there and have a little more walking space.
Yep. There's a lot of foliage in front there. Will they have to remove some of that in order to build the new structure?
The plan is for all of that to stay currently and just trim the back side of it, the house side of it back a little bit where necessary.
Makes sense. I don't have any more questions.
This is pretty straightforward. Tim.
Hmm?
Are there any questions from other board members?
No.
Any questions from members of the audience? All right, with that, we can close this application. That's it.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to application ZBA 2023-069 for an area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has 1, duly advertised and held a public hearing, 2, has considered all relevant information, and 3, has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variance. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of fact. 1, the variance will not result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties. This project will replace deteriorating cement steps in favor of a larger, more functional wood front porch. 2, the variance can be achieved by some other feasible alternative, but it is a modest variance for a good purpose. 3, the variance requested is not substantial. 4, the variance will not have a negative effect on physical or environmental conditions. In fact, it will improve the environment by replacing failing concrete. 5, the difficulty related to the variance was not self-created. The existing porch is deteriorating. And be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby approves the variance as presented.
I'll second.
Seconded by Christian. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you guys very much.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
You too. All right, bye.
Next, we're gonna have 2 applications, 2023-071 and 2023-072 for Scuddy Enterprises, represented by Premier Sign Systems. And this is for 1000 Highland Drive.
Good evening,
Welcome.
everyone. My name is Craig Tesler with Premier Sign Systems, 10 Excel Drive, Rochester, New York, 14621.
Welcome.
Thank you. Our first application is to add a small double tenant sign panel to an existing pylon sign at J. Scuddy Plaza South. With me this evening, if you have any questions, is Greg Kimber with Scuddy Enterprises and Al Malutis with Metro Mattress.
In regards to the plaza sign, there is space that's open, and is there other businesses that are not currently in business that still have signage?
Yes, and Greg could speak to that in more detail, but yes, our understanding that there are 3 additional tenants negotiating leases now. So those spaces, quote unquote, will be used for those future tenants.
And is the spaces part of the lease agreement? The advertising space?
Greg.
What was the question?
Just state your name. For the
Oh,
record.
Greg Kimber, Scuddy Enterprises.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So is part of the lease agreement, the signage on the plaza sign?
Yes, yes.
And do they pay more for their lease
No.
agreement?
No.
But it is part of the
it's
agreement
part-
overall?
Yes.
As being able to provide advertising?
Yes,
Okay. The advertising on the backside of Metro Mattress, is that part of the lease agreement?
it is.
Okay. And then, in relation to the, sign, adding the proposed sign, will there be another sign on the other side of it, or will it?
There will
blank?
be.
Okay, so there's at least 2 businesses that are on this sign that are not in business currently?
So right now with the Uno's building, we're gonna have Starbucks and Wingstop. And then there's gonna be a 3rd tenant. So technically, we have 2 additional tenants with Starbucks and Wingstop. And then there's gonna be a 3rd, and then Metro Matches. What we're doing is we're shrinking the pure hockey space and having an additional space for Metro. So that's the need for the additional box.
Okay, so that'll fill then the entire plaza sign?
Yes,
With all tenant needs and all vacancies?
yes,
So this isn't designed to meet all of the vacancies and provide the sign?
that's correct.
And expected future.
And the future tenants, yeah.
Okay, I'm all set.
You comfortable with?
Mhm.
Chris?
Oh,
Just running out of space, that's the problem.
One question I had regarding the
good, right?
sign is the signs are different sizes. Is the tenant paying for the square footage of the sign?
They're gonna pay, yeah, they pay directly for the actual
So there
size of the
is-
sign.
So
yeah.
like Value City Furniture is paying more than, say,
I mean, the
Shake
way
Shack
that
or-
works is
or
obviously
Patty
the
Shack.
anchor tenants get the bigger signs. We dictate who gets the bigger signs. So Home Goods and Value City Furniture, they got the bigger signs. And then we, if you look at the sign, there's different sizes. So all we're trying to accommodate here is to add to the box, accommodate the additional tenants.
Okay, so the 2 top signs couldn't be like divided into like 2 other signs. That's not feasible at all as far
No,
as.
no, we can't shrink their signs.
I mean, I'm not shrinking the size, just the fact that there's space above or below that possibly could be used.
Yeah, I mean, what we're trying to do is keep the existing sign and just add on. I mean, technically you could try to shrink everybody up. But the key is, obviously it's visibility. So if we do that and we add more tenants, then the signs are going to get smaller and smaller.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, we can't change the size of the top 2 signs, which is Value City and Home Goods.
One last question, the plaza sign, that's not lighted, correct?
It is.
It is
Lit.
lit.
What was the question?
The plaza sign, is
Yeah,
that lit?
It
or-
is.
Okay,
Yeah, it's all lit. It's all LED.
Any other questions from board members?
This is one for fast signs. What I guess dictated the size of the additional Metro Mattress and the blank space to add on to the existing one?
What dictated the size?
Yeah,
That was probably through the lease agreement.
okay.
Any other questions? Any questions from audience members in person or online? Okay, with that, I think we can close this application.
Mr. Chairman,
Oh.
are we speaking to just this application and doing the second one?
No, I thought there was,
Okay,
from what I heard.
I just
there was
didn't
no
have,
additional
didn't
question.
many questions on the
Correct. there were-
second wall sign, so I just wanted to make.
The second wall sign being the one behind the building. Any questions?
I guess for the Metro Mattress on the back of the building, how many? I know we see Lazy Boy on the back. Is there any other additional signage on the back of the building?
Just Lazy Boy.
Just Lazy Boy?
Yeah. Other than at the very end cap, you have, I believe it's Patty Shack for the
Okay.
burger place.
Yeah. Do you anticipate any more additional signage on the back of the building?
Not at this time, no.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
All right, we can close this application.
Mr. Chairman, with regards to application ZBA 2023-071 and 2023-072 for an area variance. I move to approve as follows, whereas the zoning board has one, duly advertised and held a public hearing, two, has considered all relevant information, and three, has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variances. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variance will not result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties, as this is a commercial retail plaza. The variance cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative based on tenant signage requirements of leasing offering. The variance is not substantial, as entrance, egress, and ingress is controlled by traffic lights at this location. The variance will not have a negative effect on the physical or environmental conditions. Sightline needs are adequate with traffic signal control. The difficulty related to the variance was self-created, and be it further resolved that based above the above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby approve the variance as presented.
I'll second.
Seconded by John. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed.
So
I'm
Christian and Heather are opposed.
Yep.
With that, the motions carry. And the applications are approved.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Have a good day.
You too.
Excuse me. Next is 2023-073 for Diamond Packaging and represented by Fast Signs of Rochester at 111 Commerce Drive.
Yeah, my name is Ron Cosmiter with Fast Signs. My address is 2761 East Henrietta Road, Henrietta, New York.
Welcome.
Anything else you want to add to the application?
Nope, that's it. Yeah.
The signs that they're putting here,
Yeah.
I drove by yesterday. Are they already there?
Yeah, they're already there.
They're already there.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I have.
That's all.
Are these signs lit or no?
No, they're just,
Okay.
they're unlit metal signs.
Was there some confusion as to what parking or what entrance?
No, they're just, well, there's two different entrances, one for pretty much office employees and one for more of the factory workers, but they're both on the same property. So you kind of need to, separate, have two different ones.
Any other questions? Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, no further questions.
Well, that's easy. With that, we can,
Any audience?
any audience, any people in the audience in here or online? Okay, with that, we can close the application.
Mr. Chairman, with regards to application ZBA 2023-073 for an area variance, I move to approve. Whereas the zoning board has duly advertised and held public hearings, has considered all relevant information, and has considered the potential benefits to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to the variance. Now therefore be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of facts. The variance will not result in an undesirable change in the characteristic of the neighborhood, as the signage will be on Diamond Packaging property, and it's to direct the employees to the correct parking. The variance cannot be achieved by alternative achieved by some other feasible alternative, as they need signage to direct the employees to the correct parking. The variance requested is substantial. The variance will not have a negative effect on the physical or environmental conditions, as the property is in an industrial area. The difficulty related to the variance was self-created. Again, they need the signage, and the signage is right there. And be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the zoning board of appeals is hereby approved as presented.
Second that.
Seconded by Beth. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We have two more left. 2023-074, which is Rocco Evangelista for East Henrietta, a property on East Henrietta Road. There's no address yet, correct?
Oh, the easel's not, it's
No,
over
yeah,
there.
50-57.
Okay.
There's an easel right there if you'd like to use it, or if that's up to
Oh.
you.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
It should be good.
All right. Have there been any changes since the last time the applicant was in front of us? I know that they were here in December 2021. This is a
No,
recertification of a variance.
yeah, pretty much. This is just a recertification.
Hold on. Sorry.
Oh.
One thing, formality, we have to have you state your name and address.
Oh, sorry. I am Tom Fitzgerald. I'm with MRB Group. I am here representing on behalf of Rocco Evangelista for the rezoning reapproval.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So there have been no changes since the last time. It's just you're coming before us again because the variance, it lapsed basically. So you need to have it
It
reauthorized.
wasn't a variance. I don't think it was
It was an area variance.
no, it was just a discussion.
No,
No,
No, this was, you
this
guys
is
approved.
expired.
this is the,
Oh, I apologize.
yeah, this is the,
I apologize.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The last application was the discussion.
Yep, I'm sorry.
could you go over the presentation again really quick, just to, since you brought it, just to kind of refresh our memories? Sorry.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, can you-
Someone's
you please
requested they
use
could use the
Yeah, go
easel,
ahead.
so someone up that the audience can see as well, if possible, please.
I can share it on the screen if you tell me which drawing from your packet you have.
I don't think that, oh, yeah, you can do it.
Yeah, it's the
It's the last
last
page.
page.
The last page. All right, give me 1 sec, guys.
While we wait for that, can you explain why the approval was expired and why the house wasn't built when we initially approved it?
Sure. The client just wasn't able to submit the building permits and just waited too long. So
Okay,
just wasn't able to submit on time.
thank you.
Okay, so
So,
the diagram's on the screen. If you would give us a review of what you're asking.
so I'm just rezoning reapproval. So right now it's a 0.92 acre lot. It's located in the rural residential district. And I think for rural residential districts, since it's going to be a single family home, a 5 acre lot size is required under Henrietta code. I think it's 295-10-152. Pretty much, we're just asking to build a single family home on a property that was in a 5 acre lot.
Okay. And this is basically pre-existing non-conforming as far as the lot size was concerned, because it's
The lot
it was rezoned.
rezoned.
It was rezoned, yes, after.
Correct. Correct, yes.
And there's been no changes to the, anything from the previous time you weren't here. It was someone else was here on behalf of the applicant.
Yeah, so nothing has changed. The only thing that's really just been changed is additions based on the permits with DOT. I think the only thing is we just have to get re-signatures from the town. We did get this approved last month in July.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Any of the board members have questions? I'm pretty confident we have some questions from the audience. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, if you have concerns or comments, we welcome you to come up. I'd ask you to have a seat for now and we'll hear the questions and concerns. Remember, I asked to state your name and address.
Yes.
Welcome.
Lynn McLean, thank you. 5069 East Henrietta Road.
And what would you like to tell us today?
Well, it's hard for me to read that schematic or drawing or whatever that is. I see, last time we were here,
Yes,
and this was approved, although there were some
objections.
objections.
Sure.
And there was an agreement in the end to put up a privacy fence. What I see here on this looks like a retaining wall, which would be you know. Our property is at one level and this drops down like probably 4 feet to the next lot, that lot.
Speak of the
So
microphone.
for reference, you live relative to the map. you
My
live
house,
correct
my
to the left.
bedroom is the back corner there. So this driveway goes by our bedroom. And the house will be in my backyard, basically.
The picture that I see, if I'm reading this right, and I'm gonna look at Aaron and Heather here. The picture that I see, those are trees that they're putting up, correct? Or bushes
Right, they were,
Yeah, I
in the in the drawing.
Yeah,
can't keep
they're-
it is that.
they're barnacle, yeah, they're bushes.
So you can read
These
that.
are
Dark green arborvitae.
Yeah, I mean,
You see that?
Correct.
Oh, in the other document. So that will not be a privacy fence proposed. It looks like it's gonna be a hedgerow. I'm gonna
a
call it
natural
hedgerow.
barrier.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I just, I
Natural.
object to the, Mr. Evangelista, if that's who wrote the response here, saying that there is no detrimental undesirable change to the neighborhood or nearby properties, when clearly this house is not in keeping with any of the 1950s ranches that are in the neighborhood. And also it's not in line with them. It sets back. And we had the same discussion before about the wildlife back there. Deer,
Yes.
turkeys, birds,
yeah, I
foxes.
went back and I listened to that meeting, so yeah,
Yeah.
that's a part of it, so
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't know where all my last time. but
They were,
Maybe they felt defeated. I don't know. I just got this notice today. We've been out of town and it was mailed 10 days after the date of the notice. So I picked this up today. Wasn't aware until this afternoon about this meeting. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. I appreciate you taking the time to listen.
Yep,
thank you for
you.
speaking. We appreciate it.
Okay.
Is there anything else that you would like to let us know? Thank you. Appreciate your input. Is there any other comments or questions from the audience? And Heather, are there any online?
I have no one online.
Okay. If you, oh, sorry.
I have a question, to her comment that this isn't in line with other residents. Has that been looked at to try to make the house in line with the neighbors?
Do you mean like physically in line or in line by design of the building itself?
In line of design and trying to get the front of the house kind of in line with the neighbors.
Yeah, we try to keep it mostly aligned with the house, but also we want to make sure that we have enough space for the septic system with the leach lines located closer to the property.
That's in the front, right?
It is.
I remember that. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
What's your question?
No, because there's is there a wetland behind the house?
No, there's no wetland.
But it is a lower level. It goes down. There's a little, if I recall, there's a little, either a creek or a valley. I can't remember what it is back there.
Right.
Yeah, it's just, and yeah, you don't have to sit back down.
Okay.
You can, I'm sorry, you can stand up and speak into the microphone. You don't have to sit
There
down.
was a utility pole right on that corner where our lot ends, fell over in one of the storms in the spring.
Sure.
And the utility company came and I don't know if you've been there, but if you've been there, but the ruts they got stuck trying to get in and out of there
Boy.
because it's so wet.
Yeah.
It's wet all the way through, which is why the septic is in the front yard.
Yes.
right.
Which,
So it is wet.
which design wise, it makes sense what they're asking for.
Right.
For the
Okay.
correct septic
Situation.
code
That's what I
they
mean.
have now.
Yeah, that's my point.
Okay.
Thank you for
Thank you
clarifying.
so much.
Are there any other questions? I mean, these are important things to consider, but
I did have one question. If we were to reapprove this today, Can we know if there was any stipulations at the end?
What does that mean?
Like, you know, as presented, be it
Oh.
further.
Oh, I mean, I would think so. Who's Christian's doing this? So
There was one stipulation last time because I think there was an issue with how it was advertised. Something because there was a decimal missing or something, so there was something that Beth put at the end that was saying that pertained to this code.
Okay.
But this time, I'm presuming it was advertised properly, so
Okay,
I don't think it needs to.
so that doesn't.
Um, you
Is there anything you're requesting, Heather?
No,
Okay,
just making sure that if we did approve it, I would want to make sure it had the same conditions as last time.
okay. Anyone else? Okay, with that, I think we can close this application.
Mr. Chairman, with regards to application ZBA 2023-074 for an area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has one, duly advertised and held a public hearing, two, has considered all relevant information, and three, has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variances. Now therefore be resolved, that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variance will not result in an undesirable change of the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties, as neighboring properties are of similar size. The variance cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative, as the current zoning rural residential prevents the building of a house on the property. The variance requested is not substantial. The variance will not have a negative effect on physical or environmental conditions, as the perk testing passed New York State Department of Health requirements. The difficulty relating to the variance was self-created, as the applicant wishes to develop their property by building a residential home. And be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the zoning board of appeal hereby approves the variance as presented.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Beth, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion carries again. We'd ask them to fill out that paperwork properly and on time. Because I think that does cause problems if they don't do it this time, right?
You know, what if it lapses?
Again, how many times can it lapse? This is it, right?
I'm not sure about that.
Second,
I don't
Either
No,
way,
we can't table it for more than
2 months.
2 months, but
Yeah.
it can lapse and they can refile.
okay.
Okay.
Oh, thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much.
Yep,
Have a good
thank
day.
you.
We're done.
Our final
Yep.
application for the day is 2023-075 by Dean Kalen, requesting a accessory structure at 31 Ward Hill Road. Welcome.
Thank you. Dean Kalen, I live at 193 Tumbleweed Drive.
Can you just explain what you're proposing here today?
I am in the process, hopefully, of building a ranch home, and then behind that, in the right-hand corner of the property, is a pole barn is what I would like to put up.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit more about the pole barn itself? 'Cause that's the variance that you're here for. Are you, what do you plan on storing in there? You know, material made out of,
Sure.
all that jazz?
Yeah, no hazardous waste stuff. I have a few antique automobiles and a vintage farm tractor as well. And again, I had stated back, I think I was here in November in a discussion, hoping to retire soon, maybe get a motorhome and do some traveling. I want everything inside for a neat outward appearance. It's just in my DNA of OCD about appearance and my property. I take pride in my property.
Okay, and so you said, you stated you don't have a mobile home or RV yet?
No,
No? Okay.
no.
So I guess what dictated the size of this barn? Is what you have currently?
I have a 3-car garage now and I'm not able to bring my car there. It's just not ample storage.
Okay, now
Yeah.
your proposed single family home, are you gonna have a garage on that as well?
I am. I have a little rendering, if you will, of what you would see of the barn behind it.
Okay,
I don't know if you want me to bring it up to you guys. It's basically showing what you'll see from the road is a bit maybe of the roof line of the barn in two cupolas. It is, the barn is a foot shorter in height than the house. The elevation drops down 2 feet from our engineering drawings. Not sure if you guys have those.
We do
yeah,
have
it's,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's 1.5 feet.
Yeah, and so it's gonna be minimal view from the road, opposed to say 260, 280, and 300 Ward Hill. Quite visible. Those are newer builds. Quite a good size barn, and then 271's a 7,200 square foot barn, 2 stories.
Did you say a 7,200 square foot?
I
barn?
did. It's 3,600 foot lower level and 3,600 foot higher. It's an old
So
barn. before-
3,600 is the footprint.
Correct. Correct.
Is that the one on the corner?
No, it's right in about in the middle of Ward Hill, and it's like two car lengths from the road. Real close. 100% visible. Old farm barn, yeah.
On the other side of Ward Hill Road,
Same side as mine.
same size.
Yeah, the others, the 260, 80s and 300, those are on the left side, north side, if you will.
You're gonna put a driveway back to this if approved.
Correct.
That'll, I assume, split at the house in some manner to,
Yes, it's gonna fork over and then continue along the side of the garage to the barn, so there'll be a door facing Ward Hill for me to put my vehicles in.
curiosity question, why don't you build the capacity of the garage for the house to be similar to this, so it's not a separate structure?
Sure. I want to park my vehicles in there full time. Another OCD thing of mine, and it just I haven't been able to do that, and I'd like to. Not clutter up the garage with my hobby, and
So clutter up another building with your hobby.
well, the plan is with ample space to be as neat and organized as possible.
Well, you haven't built the house yet, correct?
No, that's pending approval. Our engineer's been in constant
I guess,
communication.
I don't know if I'm asking my question right. You have an expectation of building approximately an 1,800 foot square
Correct.
house, 1,800 square foot house.
Yes.
But why don't you decide on the house to put the equivalent of the barn, like in a garage or something on the side or the back? Connected as part of it.
Yeah, it's just not really. It's a hill right there at the back of the house, so it's gonna be going down. As it is, I'll have to bring in some fill to level up for the barn, but it's just not great, not a great scenario.
And is there any way to do the barn a smaller size? You don't have the equipment yet. How much space are you looking, do you think it'll take up with a camper and 2 cars? If I,
Cars and a tractor and my whatever tools I would have to do my work on the vehicles and whatever, it would be not probably the right lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions from board members?
Can we see that drawing?
Sure.
I mean,
It's
is that allowed?
If you do give it to us, we have to keep it.
It's
So if you just-
nothing great. You can have
Okay.
it.
Okay, watch your, yeah. There was a spoiler.
Basically, just, the house is gonna look like that, it's gonna have a two-car garage, or it's gonna have two separate doors. And slightly bigger than it shows to the end of the brick, but that's basically what the house is.
And this is the view from Ward Hill?
Correct.
Okay.
So you'll see a bit of that roof line and the cupolas.
So it's gonna be,
Actually, I'll have you go back to the microphone.
Yep.
Just for the record's sake.
Sure.
it's going to be a 2-story pole barn. Like.
So in the
height.
in the meeting we had, someone mentioned a concern about the height. It was 14 feet. It's just gonna be single. I've knocked it down another 2 feet to lower it, so it's below the house level. So it was gonna be, I wanted to go 16, but I went 14, and then one board member was concerned about what you could see from the road, so I dropped it down another 2 feet.
Okay.
Will you?
Henrietta Road.
Is that gonna give you clearance for any RV that you may need to
That was
park in
my
there?
question.
Yeah, we're not looking at giant, but they get long.
Even with whatever
Height.
might be on top of?
Okay, so
Yeah.
Conditioning.
those are
Yep.
these
Okay.
buildings?
Yeah,
and then that barn.
good question.
That's
though.
right here.
Do you have a door for this overhead door?
See now.
Yes,
What size?
10 by 10,
No. I assume you're gonna put power out to this.
absolutely.
Do you plan on putting anything else out there? Any other utilities or
Like gas,
Plumbing.
gas, plumbing?
plumbing. That's the hope, yes.
So I think that's another question, right? I'm looking at,
So our code speaks to sheds not being able to have plumbing fixtures or insulation. This is a pole barn. It's a different permit application, different permit that we issue, and we have and do allow insulation. Plumbing. You know, for what, you know, obviously you can't have living quarters in it.
No.
That's, totally against the code, but.
hoses or something,
Yeah, hose
Sink.
bib or something of that nature to wash
a
vehicles.
wash sink or something. That's the plan? You're not looking to put in toilets and.
If toilets are allowed, that'd be great.
Yeah, because you do have the sanitary line going right past it there, so.
Exactly, and that's the corner I would like to put one. I mean, sure,
That it gets a little gray in our code, because like I said,
Yeah.
again, it says sheds, specifically no plumbing. Accessory structures, it does not specify.
Your questions aren't answered, I feel, by the time we're done with.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think,
Okay, we have had a lot of questions, and there are more questions here.
I just have one. Would you be providing access only from Ward Hill Road, or would you also be be looking to get it from Woodridge Crossing?
no, just Ward Hill.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. There.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm positive there's gonna be questions from the audience. I'm not positive, but I would bet on it. I am correct. So I will ask you to have a seat for a moment, wherever you like. We'll have others. If I'm gonna start on the, I don't know who I should. You
Right
look
side.
like you got your papers ready. Sorry, guys, no preference here, just. Please
Hi.
state your name and address.
Yeah, I am Jeff Lookup. I'm representing my father and mother, Charlie and Pat Lookup, who live at 49 Ward Hill Road.
Could you explain to me quickly where that is in comparison?
We sit above the property, so we overlook it.
Okay,
So you see the pond,
hold.
if you look at the,
Oh, you're to the, got
so
it.
the pond
Yes.
is adjacent. That's a piece of property my father owns. And then the house is located on the adjacent property
Got it. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
at a higher elevation overlooking the entire property.
Okay. What could we do? What do you have
What
to,
statements do you have?
I mean, our number one concern, we've known that this house and we've been included in the process and moved all the way through it. Our number one concern is just making sure that, I mean, yes, we feel that it's a little large for the property, but overall concerned about how it appears, the overall height, color, finish, all those types of things. But the number one thing is we just don't want to end up with vehicles parked outside, RVs parked outside, because we now have 4 cars and 2 RVs and a tractor, and And we end up with a parking lot around the building. I mean, that's our number one concern.
I think that is a fair question to ask. I will make an assumption, and I'm looking back at our applicant, that I think the reason he's doing this under testimony is to make sure that those are inside, and specifically stated, I'm pretty confident he said, I have OCD, and this would be something that drive me nuts to leave it
He's
outside.
done a great job of grooming the property and getting ready to build the
Okay.
house. We're just concerned.
Sure.
We see it growing up and down Ward Hill and everywhere else, that
Yes, it
suddenly
is.
we have a barn and there's 3 vehicles parked outside the barn and nothing parked inside the barn.
Yeah, I understand that completely.
There's a lot of that going on out there, and we just, again, this is overlooking. We see this, it's going to be very visible.
Yep.
Mhm.
Have you been involved in it sounds like the answer is yes. You've been involved in sort of this process all along to
Yeah.
understand what's going to look
We've
like.
been in, we've been looking at the site plan as it's evolved.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Are there any more comments, questions, or concerns that you feel to offer tonight?
No, I mean, as I said, we are concerned with the overall size, but understand that we don't want things parked outside it. So,
Understood.
and he did lower the height of it, so it's going to be, again, that helps.
A little tucked in, a little
A
more.
little tucked in.
Okay.
So,
Thank you for the input. I appreciate it. I think there's a couple more questions, so
Thank you.
or comments, I'm sorry. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming in. I hope you have a good day. I think there's more questions here. If you guys would like to come up and again, state your name and address and give us your comments or concerns.
Carrie Mann Richardson, 120 Woodridge Crossing in the Southern Hills HOA, which is, drawn on the renderings. I'm directly impacted, based on the schematics out, my kitchen window. If the footage is correct and I read it right, if you laid 13 of me in a row, that's how close the back of that very large pole barn will be, to my house. So that is directly in front of our place.
And did you, for my understanding, you said you're on Woodbridge Crossing?
Yep, Woodridge Crossing, 120 is my, address.
So, and again, it's, so I understand this, you're at the corner that like, there's a circle at
Yes.
Woodbridge Crossing. You're on the north side of the circle?
I'm before the circle, right? I'm the,
Got it.
right?
The
And
north side or south side of the road?
I'm terrible with north.
They
and
are
south.
north of Woodbridge.
So then I'm on the opposite side.
Okay.
So it's my unit, our Woodridge Crossing, a small tree line
Yes.
and a stone wall, and then all of their property. And so the schematics show that the large 24 square 100-foot pole barn would be literally like directly in front of our place. I also want to just make note to other people's points. There's already a very large pole barn on the corner property of the Barisis. It's 4795, East Henrietta Road, but it sits where, if you're in my property, out of my kitchen window, I can already see that. And I know it had come here and I didn't come, and I'm so sorry I didn't, because to exactly the concern, the stuff isn't in the pole barn. It's outside. And so I can respect, he built a long driveway and he's got this pole barn, and thank God it's not directly in front of me, but is there stuff still outside? Yes. Is it noisy? Yes. Are lights on at all kinds of hours? Yes. And so I'm just concerned that, and to Chairman, your questions, why does it need to be that large? Why does it need to be that far back? Can we be proactive since the house isn't built yet and adjust the plans for such a garage so that myself and the other 6 homeowners are not looking at the back of a metal pole barn or having our coffee in the morning? We've been at those units for over 20 years. I've paid the mortgage there. And there's already one approved. You'd have them so close together that you literally couldn't put a football field between them. So now you have 2 large pole barns sitting in front of 6 homeowners. So that's what the rendering doesn't show. I get from the road, it's far back, but from the homeowners, it's not. It's maybe 2 car lengths, 3 car lengths from my front door.
is, there is a tree, there are trees between you and this applicant.
Yes, it's very thin because they've been taken down. And when the leaves are not on them, I can see everything crystal clearly. Through the leaves now, I would see, I can see spotty pieces, but Rochester is not very seasonal. So I would say at least half of the year, I can see crystal clear, even the pole barn slightly, who's in it, the lights are on, so this is even closer. And so, yes, it's not enough of a wood line that would hide it. And what I noticed from the applicant's piece is if you look at the home in Pittsford, they have a wood line. They're not looking at anything else, right? So you come to, in front of my house now, and I'm going to look at the back of 2,400 square feet of metal versus you didn't have that in your own neighborhood at your previous house, but now you want to put that in front of my home. I don't know if there's anything else that'd be helpful for you to know, but I just wanted you to know how close it would be and that there's already one where clearly it got approved and they may not be honoring even the variance. And you're going to put another one right next to it, not even a football field apart, if you approve the proposal.
Thank you for your input.
Thank you for.
Hello, sir.
Mr. Chairman. My name is Alan Richardson. I reside with my wife at 120 Woodridge Crossing. I just want to mention that the other pole barns that were mentioned at the top of Ward Hill Road are existing structures. They were there. Actually, they've been there for old. So it's not new construction. We love Henrietta.
We do. Too.
We love it. My wife works for the city school district. She designs curriculum. I work for the Groveland Correctional Facility. All day long, I see great structures, prefab. When we come home to a pastoral neighborhood, beautiful. Our view from our kitchen window is grass. Our neighbor's beautiful property, the pond. And our other neighbor, who is a fine neighbor, Dean, he does his best. I love cars, love them. We just don't want a barn, a pole barn, shop, a storage building out our front window. And my wife is right. Come fall, there are no leaves. So we have a clear view. And right now it's a clear view of a beautiful property. If that goes up, and our view will be obstructed by a big metal structure.
Just to add on to what my husband said, the other barns mentioned are again, new builds and in line with each other. So if you look at those homes, they're all in similar size and again, with similar barns, and they're up further, up the area of Ward Hill. So they're more aligned with each other, and I think it doesn't take away the aesthetics of the neighborhood. And so those being used in part of the appeal process, just to kind of misrepresent what's down in the area where the proposal is being asked.
Okay. Thank you for the input. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
No, thank you for allowing us the opportunity to come and
Well,
speak.
thank you for speaking. We appreciate it. I feel like there's a couple questions that it brings up for me, for the applicant. Can I have the applicant please come back up? As you obviously heard this, I imagine that you've spoken with others, potentially everybody here before, I imagine. Is there anything that you feel that you can do to help alleviate some of these issues that are being brought up? Maybe not so. I'm telling you a belief that I have. I believe you're going to be putting the cars and trucks in there, or vehicle in there if we approve it. But more, the secondary component is the line of sight issue. I do understand that you put it out back. It might be for different reasons. One, to have the space out front and just have separation from the road, or it could be that's the flattest spot. I don't know why, but I also think that it does create a visual that they. I don't remember hearing that last time, to be honest with you.
No.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
And I think that's a very understandable concern that I'm hearing. And so my curiosity is there anything you can do to help them? Things like put up
Plant
some trees. Maybe not ones that drop leaves,
Correct.
I don't know. if that's-
Evergreens were in the plans.
Evergreens are in the plan. So I don't, operator error here probably,
on.
but I don't see those. Oh, it might. be
No,
on the page.
they weren't in our plans. I'm sorry. They're not in the plans that
Oh,
maybe that
okay.
you're looking at.
I didn't see any.
Yeah, they're not. So and you just acknowledge that. And I'm just looking at some other things.
I mean,
here on the page.
The pole barn that you're proposing, are there any windows on the back side of it?
There was going to be one. I can remove it if they would. It's a problem. There was going to be one window on the back of the barn,
How big?
3x4.
Okay. What about lighting around it? Lighting around the barn?
Yeah, again, I'm a respectful person. If they're opposed to having a light in the back, I would not put a light in there. If someone asked me not to, I would do that. Would I want one just for security? Sure, but I want to be respectful because
Right.
that's who I am.
So without lighting on the back side of that and without a window as way to
Sure.
get in, there it
Sure.
would just be darker on the back side.
That's fine.
Down the sides pointing towards your own house and not backwards
Correct.
would be one thing. And then you yourself indicated that you were planning on putting some evergreens. Would that be the back
I
side
can,
of
I can plant them along the backside of the barn, so yes.
to
And,
screen off?
and again, like Charlie's been great coming over, we've been talking. And he asked us, and when we did take down a lot of trees and it hurts. I'm not a hunter, I'm not a fisherman. It hurts for me to kill a bug. I kid you not. I don't like cutting trees down. This was done to accommodate the best position for the barn. And also a driveway.
Mhm.
So I absolutely have in the plans to plant evergreens,
Okay,
something that's not dropping and then wintertime you see right through.
right. Understandable. With that, if you were changing your own building structure so that there isn't a window and that you have evergreens in the back, obviously, to screen any neighborhood, not just one neighbor, it would be that whole row. That actually offers you another sense of security. They're gonna know
Sure.
immediately if there is something else going on that you need to be aware of as far as anything in the neighborhood too.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
What is the building gonna be? How is the building gonna be produced? What is it made out of?
Yes, it's gonna be a metal structure. And it's gonna have white trim, vinyl soffits. It's gonna be nice as some houses I see around. Again, cupolas up top for character and charm. This is well over $500,000 project.
Mhm.
So and Charlie had some concerns and I told him the last thing I want to do is take away from someone's property value. I feel I'm going to be adding to their property value it's going to be a beautiful house. That rendering doesn't show, going to have tapered posts and stacked stone. It's going to be a craftsman style house. So,
Are there more questions from the board members? Anything that we should be discussing separately?
I do think we need a discussion.
I agree.
Okay, so what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna pause this for a minute. We're gonna stop
Close the
the,
meeting.
we're gonna close the meeting for a minute. And we're gonna have a discussion at the board. This discussion is able to be heard by everybody, but not commented on. Afterwards, we'll reopen it and I'll ask you in a moment.
sure.
But that's the plan. I think there might be another question before we start that. So
Okay.
thank you for that. I'll have you have a seat. Is there another comment or question before we do that?
Yep.
But you have to come back up to the microphone.
Yep. And state your name and address.
So the size of that structure, the 2,400 square feet, to plant evergreens or a barrier fence, I can appreciate that as a suggestion, but there is no way because even the other pole barn, I have mature trees. I'm right by Lehigh Trail. Like
Yes.
that's a mature forest and I can still see his pole barn. So evergreens, although I can appreciate the neatness and like, I'd only, like I'm still going to see a huge metal structure directly out my front window. So I just want to like the board to conceptualize that it sounds reasonable to ask, the person submitting the proposal to think of those things, but it doesn't alleviate a 2,400 square foot building that's 13 of me lined up from my front door. I just want that taken into the
It is
discussion.
clearly understood, and it is something that we will weigh out, and you'll hear us talking about it. Before we close anything, we will reopen the meeting and be allowed to ask questions. During the conversation, though, you can have thoughts and stuff. We'll have you come back up. Go ahead.
So I guess one more question.
Oh, always.
The area is zoned for what square foot to each building?
Roughly 900. I'm sorry.
900. And this is how many square foot?
24.
Yeah, 76 is allowed per code and they're requesting 20.
So I'm terrible in math, but is that almost 3 times the size? So my question is, why do you think the people who did that, what were they thinking?
Who did
Why
that?
did they put a
The
cap
people
at the
who
size?
chose that code.
Yes.
Yeah.
What were they thinking? What were they imagining for that area? And Carrie and I are not the only neighbors. They're all working people, so they couldn't come. But there's approximately 6 families that live, right, well, we're all connected. We're townhomes. So it's not just us that are affected. But just as I look at the mural in back, 1818, I wonder what were they thinking when they set that about how they wanted Henrietta to look?
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So with that, I will close the meeting for discussion at 8:13. And again, for right now, we're gonna have everybody pause for a minute while we talk, and then we'll open it back up, okay? So I would like to hear everybody's comments and thoughts. We'll sort of sort this out and was that, oh. So maybe with Heather.
Yeah, I'm struggling a little bit because this is a massive structure. It's bigger than the home. I can appreciate the amount of time that went into this, and it, trying to make everybody happy, which is never going to happen. I think it's too large. And still, he has some equipment and some stuff that he already has planned, but there's still that unknown, which is creating the size of this. So I'm still against it. And even before she came up, I was gonna even mention, even evergreens, they take time to grow.
Yep.
So even putting that stipulation, it would still affect the character of the neighborhood. So I'm still against it.
Does this change, did that change for you out of your recollection from a year ago or whatever it was when we had the general discussion about it? Or did the testimony from other neighbors make a change for you?
So, my recollection from a year ago was the property line or the property size. I didn't recollect the accessory structure.
I
So,
don't
and
think the size of it was defined at that time, was it?
It
Well, according to the
was.
notes, it
It
was,
was, apparently.
or pretty close.
So.
It said accessory structure greater than 1%, a 40 by 60 pole barn. So it
Yeah,
was
so
pretty
it
clear.
was.
That in itself doesn't directly matter on our testimony and information today. I don't recall having anybody opposed to it while we were there that day. So this is, it adds the personal
Yeah, I think we
connection.
also have a lot more information this time.
Maybe, yeah.
So,
And he made adjustments too to try and accommodate some stuff, but we didn't hear from to my recollection, the neighbors from the backside of this property.
correct.
That perspective wasn't there.
Yes, and it's not just them, it's, a couple townhouses, so.
Is there anything that you see, Heather, and you're one person in this conversation? that would change your opinion on this in both whether the applicant had to do something or something?
I would say definitely the size, because I mean, as it stands now, they could still go back and do what, an 876-foot structure, you know, 2
Maybe
stories
we
high.
even give a bigger,
Right, well, I'm just saying,
That
like,
would be worse
they
in my
they could do that without coming to the board of getting the variance. So, but I think if you were to come back and say, well, I only need 1,400 square feet and not, I'm just throwing a number out there,
I understand. Something else.
something else.
Okay. And I'll ask you guys in a minute too. Tim, how about you?
So my very first thought was it's simply too big. It's just simply, it's almost order of magnitude bigger than what is allowed. Not technically, but it is just massive. When I drove by and visualized, and then saw the drawing, I thought it's well hidden. It's clearly well thought out. Clearly has good intentions to respect the others, but I didn't drive behind to the street for the perspective of the house behind it. That's a new perspective to me in my decision making, and I don't like it. I don't think it makes sense.
Is there anything that you see in some level of compromise that might make sense to you?
If it was possible to add evergreen trees that were mature enough to make a reasonable fence, then I would say that would be a good accommodation, but I don't know if that's possible. So I'm in favor of voting against.
Aaron? If you
For
don't have any,
me-
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I have one. For me, the structure is too large. You know, the current residents around and the developments around this area have moved in with an expectation with what's there and what the current zoning allows. We've heard a lot of concerns from neighbors about the proposed size and its view. To me, the evergreen planting would be risky. The
What do you mean by that?
plantings, what's that?
What do you mean by that?
The plantings first, even if you planted a significant size, would take a very long time to screen something that big. The other issue with that is they are living things and they don't always live and they don't make it.
Right.
So it's not a sure thing for me. And as we can see next door, that was voiced before, there is a massive structure that ended up with a very large driveway and a lot parked outside it as well. And to me, it would also definitely impose a change on the character.
I did want to point out that we also have to remind that this goes in perpetuity to the property.
And that's the other thing, we don't know what future owners
know.
will use it for.
Mhm.
And how.
Yeah.
Or who the next person will be, 20, 30, 40 years from
Yeah.
now.
Right.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. I fully acknowledge and believe that the applicant is respectful of the others, but that's a good point. This decision goes in perpetuity. And if the next owner, regardless of the timeline, doesn't have equal amounts of respect, then we've got a new problem.
And so for now, I am not for it and I just don't see a compromise. But that wouldn't mean that I wouldn't be opposed to seeing a smaller shed or pole barn proposed. But I would want to see some actual renderings of what it would look like from multiple vantage points from the back circle and also Ward Hill.
Okay.
I would also question, revisit the topic of why couldn't this barn be in front of where the proposed house is? So that it's sort of equidistant from the two roads and minimize the impact of each of the neighbors' perspectives.
What if it was angled? Angled up. Further.
I mean, from,
Hey, let me take one step back. I'll ask yours in a minute, John. Tim, your comment was why not have the house farther forward?
No, right, so from many of these drawings, even though it shows Woodbridge Circle Road, it doesn't show where the houses are relative to the proposed location of the barn. If the barn were to be simply moved further north and on the other side of the house, then you had much greater distance from home to barn view on both Woodridge and Ward Hill Road. And preserve that sight line from the 6 homeowners on Woodridge.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Unfortunately, this,
I think the lot dictates part of this too, right? There's probably elevation issues and other things to make
There-
this flat. The elevation.
yeah, so the house, it looks like is on the flat, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron, is on the flattest portion. Of, it's at the top, basically. And there is grading obviously down to where the proposed pole barn is. But it seems very minimal.
Yeah, the house is definitely in the relatively flat spot
Mm-hmm.
And higher.
and higher, but a couple feet.
And unfortunately, we can't see where,
Is that gonna be higher than the barn?
The barn
that
is
is, there's gonna
lower.
be higher than barn.
The elevation is
The house is, yes.
the lower,
It's
the elevation of the house is 621.
The finished floor is at 622.7, and then the finished elevation or finished floor elevation is 618. He also brought it down 2 more feet.
The house, the
The
roof.
barn.
the barn.
The
So
barn.
it's only 12 feet tall.
It has to be 12 feet at the eaves, not at the roof.
Well, the roof is gonna be pitched, but
Yeah. So it's 12 feet plus the pitch of the roof, plus the.
but not as tall as the house. Now,
What's
not gonna be
as tall as the
It will, you're gonna see
our
it.
purpose is relief
yeah,
of
okay.
code for
Of
the size of the,
size, yes.
for the size.
You're correct.
When we're looking at a building that's 40 by 60 to accommodate this person's request for storage of 2 cars, a tractor, and a future of
Motor.
RV to allow in retirement travel. Plus, we're talking storage of whatever
Stuff.
they may
Things,
have, tools,
yeah.
etc. So, I mean, literally, they could put how many storage sheds on to their property as long as code allows, right? This is not the same. So they're combining everything into one building that they're saying, this size will accommodate everything that I need and allow me to work on whatever, etc.
desires,
So
yeah.
in doing a little bit of research, and a 30 by 50 would allow for 4 to 6 cars or trucks, so approximately the storage needs, and then 300 to 600 square foot of storage. That particular 30 by 50 may not be as short as the 12-foot minus the roof line. So when we're talking about one person's particular storage needs for their own purposes, while it is a shame that you can have a very similar structure that somebody is using it for their own needs and it may not be as neat and tidy as one would want. You're also looking at a property that's facing it, that's protected by homeowners association rules of appearances and what can be outside, what can't be outside, etc. So we're kind of like stuck up against forward progress of someone's own homeownership dreams to what has always been there. But ultimately, we're looking at providing relief to the code that's possible. We
of the
really
size.
haven't asked the question, can the structure be smaller?
I did.
And the answer was
Not really. was
No,
the answer.
yeah.
based on what they need.
You're going
What
for
they're-
400 to 50.
Right. What they're asking for is reasonable in the sense of, I'm planning ahead so that I can park everything that I have in that storage facility. I can still work on my vehicles. I can still do what I need to do in this structure. Is it unreasonable considering 2 houses down, there is an even larger pole barn?
and
in the neighborhood.
and messy.
Yeah.
So the problem is that the appearance or thought, obviously, from the neighbors in question is that it's gonna turn out looking like that one, which has a dozen campers and boats and trailers behind it. I mean, it's really ridiculous.
And testimony is, it's not going to look like that. I'm willing to forego a window and have no lighting on the backside, in addition to putting up needed vegetation
Yep.
in order to help screen it off as best I can while still meeting my needs.
Oh, sorry.
So we won't have any testimony aside. We have, I'm just saying the cons to what you're saying. First of all, I agree, a homeowner buys a property to build on it and, you know, callously in the comment, not necessarily in my personal feelings, you know, the neighbors next to them don't have a say in whether they can build that house or not to code. But once they exceed that code, then we have that, their testimony as part of our decision-making process here. Now, the second piece of my comment is, or my thought is, we can say that you can't put a window in the back, easy enough, that's square. We can say you have to put up plants or whatever to make this less visible, that's easy enough. We can't guarantee that that will be maintained moving forward, even if he has the best intentions. We have no, if something were to happen to him tomorrow that he had to sell it right after he built it, whatever the reason, God forbid, I hope not, but if he had to, then this neighbor here with 23 trailers out back could come over and buy that property.
You're right.
And now he puts,
You have
now
a
he's got
person
room
that's
for
willing to
30
invest
more
$500,000 into a project. The person who owns a piece of property that may not have the same type of fundage to purchase and turn into the same.
Yep. My point behind it is we don't have control over tomorrow.
You're right, we don't.
And the problem that's at hand is the application is substantial, right? When we ask the question, one of our findings of facts is this substantial? And the answer is absolutely on this one is substantial.
And I think
But
that's
it's one finding of fact, not
right.
not
And that's
five.
why there's another one that says, can this be achieved by all?
Another. And those balance out. Because they can't be achieved by another method, in his words. But I guess again, we could re-ask we don't have to approve it either. We can, but we don't have to.
Right, and that's just basically what our decision is being able to provide relief to the code.
Yes.
Based upon testimony presented to us and evidence presented to us by the person proposing it.
How big is that other word? I don't know.
It looks pretty big.
Right,
And
you have options. I mean, if you're inclined not to approve the application as presented, we can table this and you can,
Advice.
give him advice that right now it's too big. It's too big. And if you're saying it's this or nothing, then
Nothing.
you can withdraw your application. Or you can come back next month with some renditions that you can actually look at. Because right now, what was presented, I'm
Is a
not
square.
trying to,
It's not a strong representation.
very.
It's also only half of the perspective, right? So
It's only the
yeah.
front perspective too. That's the problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You could ask
didn't
that when he comes back that he deliver to us renditions that are professionally drawn by an architect or somebody that you plan to use to help construct this structure. And also come back with something that's a different size if you want us to consider it. So I mean, those,
Are valid options.
right.
yeah, that was gonna be one of my suggestions is if we were to still look at this to see more of what the building looks like. And see if there was any what's the word?
Compromise.
Thank you. Compromise on size.
This did it for me. Christian?
Pretty much in the same,
Okay.
train of thought as everyone else, as far as, it's a big structure. I get that there's a need for it. We can't tell the future about whether or not it's always gonna be well maintained. And like everyone else, I I thought, what's far enough off of Ward Hill Road, it probably wouldn't be a problem, but it's come to light that there is,
Yeah, we overlooked it.
we overlooked the back, the other, because I shouldn't have assumed that there was a lot of foliage back there and it wouldn't be seen by anybody, so it was something that was not on our radar essentially, so.
Correct.
Okay. So does I'm asking, I'm making a statement, is this the consensus for now? That we should potentially follow Eric's guidance or at least idea that we make a request to table this till next month and come.
Some renditions.
I think
We can't even do it next month.
Best for October.
October has to be, it has to be.
Why is that?
Because he's off.
Two of us are out, so if there's a problem, if there's one person that doesn't agree with it, then it could. it'll pass.
You know, this is, for me, this is exactly like the previous, we had another large structure they wanted, and we asked them to reduce the size, since we thought it was too big.
So I think
There's
we
a
have
lot of
to have
these.
that, so I think unfortunately that, although I'd love to close this today, because it's, it takes a lot of time and effort for everybody involved. Especially the applicant and the neighbors. I think we have to, in good conscience, try to accommodate both sides of this story here and any objections to my thoughts here?
No, I did wanted to see if we wanted to discuss size.
And I think that if we're giving advice back, it would be, show me drawings of this, show me drawings of it
Yeah.
at 2,000 square feet.
Yeah, like a floor plan of here's where
Show
this is
me
gonna
where
go.
it's going to place and what the intention of.
And
I'm gonna also recommend that, you'll hear me saying this, but I'm gonna say it officially in a minute. It's not a bad idea to talk to the neighbors when you're doing this, so that they can see it ahead of time, and I feel, in my opinion, I do feel there will be some relief for the applicant that we can agree on. But I also think that based on other testimony, that there's gonna be some restrictions compared to the desire, unfortunately, for both.
yeah, I agree with everything, and I would add the recommendation that they propose other layouts, not just the size, but also different layouts. And I know doesn't come with great difficulty because there's an expense to having new drawings and renderings. Taking into account the elevation and all the other things, but to me, it's too big. And it has too much of an impact on the character of the neighborhood, not of Ward Hill, but of Woodridge Trail and of Woodridge Crossing.
That's my overlook as well.
Mhm.
And on the Ward Hill side, I was pretty okay with this. The testimony today has really put a wrench in this for me. I'm not excited that we didn't pay attention to it that way last time, so. Is everybody okay with me taking this next step here?
Yeah.
Okay, so with that, at I can't even see it, 8:33. We're gonna reopen the zoning board of appeals meeting for August 2nd to discuss this application with everybody here. I'm confident that everybody was able to hear our conversation. I know that this isn't always the happiest situation for applicant and necessarily for the neighbors as well. But you know, we're weighing this out very seriously. We're not taking it as a joke from either side. I think it's going to be important for everybody to be happy neighbors together. I do believe firmly, I don't know for sure that I'm one of 7 votes, but I do believe firmly that there will be relief applied to the applicant. I think he will have a bigger facility than the amount that's allowed by code. This is a very common thing that happens, and with needs that are requested, we often will give some variance. That said, I hear everybody very clearly, and as far as neighbors are concerned, and potentially more neighbors that we didn't hear from today, I can't assume that they would come in or not, but this is something that we have to weigh out. So I think, as you heard, we have to ask you to come back. I would encourage you guys to talk to each other. It seems like everybody's friendly, like there's no animosity here. It's just there's a visual concern or a space need. I would encourage very much the conversation between you guys before you come back. It's not mandatory, but it does make it a lot easier if everybody goes, I got it, or here's my problem. I think good conversation creates good neighbors as well. I think this is hard for everybody, so it really isn't always fun for us to do this, so I'm sorry for both directions here. I guess with that, are there any questions before I make a request to table this till the next meeting when we're all here, and next month is light. Light meaning 2 of us are out. If we do it next month and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, one person, I think it's one person declines, that will be a no-go for the structure approval. So I do suggest that we wait till October to reconvene, which again is a long time.
And can I ask, just so it's clear for everyone, if the application is denied, what are the options of the applicant after that?
They can build an 876
76
square foot structure.
Isn't it also true that they can propose a totally different plan and submit that? Right, so it just needs to be a different.
There's a limitation.
If it's denied, then you'd have to reapply as new.
Reapply as new with something different.
You could be
maybe
$23.99 is different, so I mean.
Correct.
Yes, he could.
Okay.
But
Is
if it's
there
tabled,
a-
you can tabled, we're just pausing it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear that if that's the course of action, then that's an option. If it's
we are not
technically
declining
denied, they
it
could
right now.
technically
Right.
reapply. Right, understood.
If we decline it, is there a waiting period before they can reapply?
Well,
I believe it's a 1-year waiting period, but I'd have to double check that.
That's for that'd be for the same variance, but if
Okay.
they could reapply for a different variance.
Yeah,
that's what I was looking for.
so,
Just in terms of the planning, right? Because next month, if they apply, it's denied, they could change it, reapply new in the following month, right? Just so that they understand. Okay.
Yeah.
so I'd ask Mr. Colleen to come up to the podium for a moment. You've heard how we're addressing this, and I know it's not fun to have this conversation today at this point in time. It is something that we're obviously listening to your neighbors to have their feedback. I'd request that you accept us tabling this and coming back to talk to us about it with some more information that has been sort of adjusted. Because it sounds like if you asked us to go through it right now and make a vote for this, it sounds like you don't have the vote to take to get what you're asking for. So I'd like to ask you to allow us to table that. Is there any questions you have on what I'm saying or what I'm requesting?
Yes. What was the size that is acceptable for the barn, and how big a garage can I put on the house then?
I think that's something that you need to take into account of what we're indicating, that the consensus of this board right now is 2,400 square foot or 40 by 60, may be just too large to give the variance to. Now, you may find with someone who can give you some professional drawing of, if I have a X size pole barn,
Camper
and I can put a schematic of, here's how I could place my 2 cars, my tractor, and my RV of an approximate size of X that I plan on, while still allowing me for storage, tools, and workspace. The very minimum that I could do all of this and accomplish my needs is this size. And if you can actually have that in a drawing and demonstrate that versus what we're hearing, I think the visual goes a long way. Picture worth 1,000 words. So if you have that visual of what you would say is the absolute minimum that would provide you with what you're looking for, obviously not the 876 or 896, otherwise you wouldn't be coming here.
Right,
But whatever that is,
but
if
not the
you,
2,400.
but
In the position where it is proposed.
Right.
with what you're proposing for what your needs are. If what your needs are absolutely 2,400 and you have it all drawn out, you can already understand where the board members are currently based on what you've just heard. So here's if you will, a homework assignment for you. We can bring it back next month. One person not agreeing with it, it'll be automatically denied and you've wasted your time. If you bring it back in October and bring us those good visuals, you'll have the full board again.
And higher likelihood of if there's an adjustment to and some agreement with the neighbors. That's what we're saying, right?
So those are here's what we have. I mean, we could vote on it right now.
I don't think it'll pass though, so
No.
you have to.
However it votes, we could vote on it right now. You could agree to the tabling for October's meeting and bring back with you visual of what you would like to do. And maybe address any other concerns that you've heard this evening, not just from the board, but from your neighbors. Does that seem reasonable to you?
Yes.
So are you in agreement to table it till October's meeting?
Yes.
Do you have any additional questions?
And Kevin, I've spoke with before about the home size. I don't know if neighbors are aware of the equation. Yes, 1% of the acreage is what's allowed,
Right.
Yes.
but there's also the equation with outbuildings, sheds.
Yep.
And home total structure can be up to 25%. And I'm at 4.9%. I
And
just
would-
like them to know that as well.
So that would be
Well-
part of what you bring back to us in October, is all of that information.
That was my question earlier. Let me ask you one more question.
Sure.
I'm gonna re-ask it from earlier. Is there any way that you can identify addressing the space need to the main structure?
Well, that's what I asked about, and I think Kevin told me 30.
So
Five wide?
a garage can be 35 in width and 30 foot in depth. That's the maximum.
However, you can come back with a variance to get a deeper
And wider garage
or
on the
wider
main
garage.
house.
It's a request for a variance, but yes.
Yeah. You can
So
come
that would be a
And-
separate variance
and-
request, but that may, help you with if you then make the pole barn smaller because you have more storage in the main house. That in and of itself.
And so this, I'm thinking, I'm trying to picture this as a neighbor from behind your property. And I clearly take some blame here because I did it from the Ward Hill face.
No, I did too, and I apologize. I apologize.
And I appreciate the way you interact because sometimes it's not.
No,
These are your neighbors. so
I
it's
want to
good
be respectful to everyone.
I
not
think
just
anybody here
from
sees
the
that.
front.
I think everybody here sees that there's a need and a discrepancy that we're addressing. So I think it's very clear from my seat. But the reason I said it from the house perspective is because I believe, from my view, that if I'm looking at the back of someone's house, that's a very different feel than if I'm looking at the back of a pole barn structure. I think you're looking to make this look very nice. I believe you completely.
100%.
I do not doubt that for a moment. But to me, there is a difference. If my neighbor had a giant pole barn out back, I would look at that differently than if they had a big house. And so I don't know if that makes sense for the neighbors. I think that's a part of the conversation that you'll have with them. So with that, I would like to table this application. I think we gave you some guidance on how to do this. Talk to your neighbors, make sure that you're dealing with some of their concerns and needs, and come back. It might be a lot easier if there's a change in that aspect. And I'm sorry for the situation here. So with that, I would like to table application 2023-075. And everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to table that till October and we'll proceed from there. I will close the meeting at 8:45 on the 2nd. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.